Well, good morning. Thank you all for coming along. I was catching up with Dorian at the start of this morning, and we're lucky to be able to come to such a beautiful spot to enjoy such a good day as this. And so thank you very much for your time, taking times out of your busy schedules. I've got a couple of things I want to run through just as a welcome for you here, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what we've got. So first off, welcome to the Sheep Breeders Forum. Pleasure to be able to host you here in Napier, and particularly without the disruption that we had to put up with last year with COVID. As we've been preparing for the forum, I've been wondering, why do we do this? Why do we run a Sheep Breeders Forum? As you can see, it's a lot of energy, a lot of effort goes into it, but a cost. So what are we really trying to achieve out of it? And I've decided there's three main reasons that I think of. First off, an opportunity for breeders to hear what is going on at Beef and Lamb New Zealand Genetics, and to hear from the breeder community about what's important to you, for us to hear from you. Secondly, it's an opportunity to interact with scientists and others in the industry about what's coming down the pipeline toward us and toward your farms. Thirdly, and most importantly, it's an opportunity to get together, hatch cunning plans, and focus on the future of your industry and the businesses. With that said, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to set the scene and describe the context of farming as I see it at the moment, and a few insights from our consumer research work. Then more specifically, I'll talk a bit about Beef and Lamb Genetics and about our team. So first off, I'm going to start with a video, which hopefully most of you have seen before.
The recipe for perfect beef and lamb. Take one small fresh country. Make sure it's nice and remote. Now, keep it at the ideal temperature all year round. Next, mix in the farmers. They go perfectly with the nature of this unique place. Regular sprinkles of rain to really bring out the lush meadow grass. Then let your animals happily graze on this grass all day, every day. And there you have it, New Zealand, the perfect recipe for beef and lamb. Pure nature.
So I love that video. And the reason I love it is for a couple of things. Besides great looking food, obviously. But it shows our farming in the light that our consumers and customers think about it. Wide open spaces, no dogs, no buildings, no tractors, no yards, no sprays, no chemicals, not even any fences that you can see. Just wide open spaces and animals living the good life. Now, we all know that those idyllic scenes are not often, that we've seen in the video there, are not often replicated out on the farm. It obviously never rains for one thing, right? But that absolutely speaks to a theme we've got running through this conference, which is future-focused, productive, yet low input and environmentally sensitive animals. As an example, we've seen a change to the docking rules just in the last few months in New Zealand, and it's really only a matter of time in reality before castration and tailing, as we do it at the moment, are taken away from our arsenal as farm management tools. And just a wee story on that. A few years ago, my parents liked to, we used to farm in Narooma up in the northern King Country. My parents liked to pick up strays, people as well as animals. So maybe 10 years ago, they brought some Polish hitchhikers home with them, who had been woofering their way around the world, and got them to help out over docking. Always looking for a spare hand, bit of free labour. The Poles were absolutely horrified that we would steal those babies away from their mums so that we could put a tail on their ring. Sorry. Put a ring on their tail, perhaps. Or a tail on their ring, who knows. Anna in particular was upset that we were cutting chunks out of the ear, just so that we knew who were ours compared to what was the neighbours was. Right, and so it was a real eye-opening moment for me and for us about that, what we see as a standard practice and what we have really good reasons for doing it, but versus how other people in other parts of the world see our practice. Perhaps not surprisingly, they only stayed for one day of docking. All right. But yeah, as I say, that link between what we do versus what people who buy our product think is really important, and what we're thinking about here at the moment. Right, so talking about people who buy our food, we've been keeping track of what is important to our customers around the world. Taste Pure Nature, as you're probably aware, is focused on what we call a conscious foodie. So this is a person who's well-heeled, well-educated, and focuses on food as an experience rather than just fuel. They like and they eat meat, and they like the story that goes with their food. So here's a couple of slides from our consumer insights work. So first off, what this shows us is that taste is king. And taste is always going to, taste stays right at the top of what people are looking for when they're looking to buy food. Bad steak, bad lamb rack will kill them every time, no matter what the other attributes are. Our conscious foodie doesn't want to be embarrassed at a dinner party with a bad piece of meat. The second point from the insights is that largely that consumers are very much still focused on price. Hugh Good, who's our market research, he describes this as the selfishness of us, right? Firstly taste, then price, then healthiness, then convenience, then sustainability. You could also describe that as taste good, cheap, good for me in the short term, easy for me, good for me in the long term. When we go to the UK and look at our lamb purchases in the UK, very same sort of pattern, right? Taste right up the top, food safety, and then animal welfare in the UK. But even that animal welfare is really, it's good for the animals because that means it's probably good for me as well, right? So there's, Hugh describes this as not a whole lot different to those cavemen who were worried about me first and then everyone else second. That said, at the same time, we're seeing a change in society, and you guys will all know this already, right? So this is in New Zealand, and it's a proportion of New Zealand women who are worried about climate change. That's climbing, and these sort of results, so down here it's showing that it's more important to women in New Zealand than men in this survey set, but these results are repeated in all developed markets around the world. All right, so that's just a couple of consumer insights, a bit of a thought around the world, and sort of a little bit of the context as to what we at Beef and Lamb, and then us at Beef and Lamb Genetics, as we're thinking about the future of farming and the future of sheep. Those are some of the things we're taking and bearing in mind. A little bit closer to home, I thought it might be a bit useful to run through how the funding of Beef and Lamb New Zealand Genetics has changed over the last period of time since it was started a few years ago. So I thought I'd just run through the tracks. So the first off, so this, you'll see the scale here, so that's $1 million up over there. So this is the amount that comes through SIL from our paid for by breeders, by you guys. So that comes through at about $350,000 a year. Oh, sorry, I've messed up my slide there. So the next bit in the orange here is what comes from the New Zealand Meat Board. So this is the income from the reserves that are saved from the Meat Board that's invested. That comes to something like $16 million over that period of time. The Meat Board's a really good supporter of genetics in New Zealand. The next one is in grey, that's Beef and Lamb New Zealand. Sorry, I want to make sure I get these right for you. That's our levy income. So over the last few years, you'll see that since 2019, that proportion of levy funds, so this is what comes directly from the levy fund, has increased. This is the big one, so this is the really big change, right? This is MB's part. So MB, we're funding $3.5 million a year to our sheep genetics program that finished a couple of years ago. And you'll see that really The difference there, as MB's money's dropped out, is where the beef and lamb levy has stepped up to try and match some of that expenditure. The last little bit there is, that's actually, sorry, the legend doesn't line up, but that bit there is MLA. The bit of money, we had $2 million, come from MLA in Australia for a project that we did with them in cattle. And then that is all of the other, really. So potentially, mostly in what we've called that leverage funding there. The dark blue is what's come from MPI, the Red Meat Profit Partnership, also sire nomination fees, particularly in the bulls. So I guess the important thing for me and the context for showing this is we'll talk about how the funding stream has changed, but until you can see a picture of it, sometimes it's not that easy to really understand. So as you can see, we had a big funding stream which has really helped build the evaluation and pull together a lot of the good work that we're reaping now. And now we're really in that consolidation phase, working really hard to maintain what we've got. And next year we expect that to just lift up a bit over $4 million, particularly as we bring in some more funding around our beef program. All right. I guess referendum notwithstanding. So if you haven't had a chance to get out and vote, I recommend you do that. All right. So actually, before we get to there, a couple of things. Right. So what have we done? A couple of key achievements for beef and lamb New Zealand genetics over the last year. First off, we've built and maintained our committed team of people, and we'll run through them soon. We've improved the New Zealand genetic evaluation, the formula that does the maths that sit underneath the Sheep Improvement Limited. We've delivered that evaluation every week. And just to give you an idea of the complexity of the formula and the amount of data being manipulated, when BLG shifted that to the cloud from being based on servers, Microsoft didn't have any machines that were big enough to run it, right? That's a huge and complex data set. We created and delivered Improve for commercial farmers, giving them a tool which helps to link commercial farmers with breeders based on a personalised breeding index. There's been over 2,000 unique users in Improve since it was launched back at the start of the breeding season, and each session lasts longer than 5 minutes. So people are getting on there, they're spending some time on there rather than just clicking in and clicking out. Obviously we had COVID, but we still managed to do a progeny test program. And there's lots of other things which you'll hear about over the next 2 days as well, including improving the wall module, working on the terminal evaluation, and setting up pathways to allow new genotype providers into the market. Looking forward in the coming year, there's 3 key areas for us to focus on. First is getting the bureau and breeder functions of Improve completed. This will let you and your advisors do more with your data. It will mean that we can turn off the Jade system, which SIL is sitting on. So essentially, we have a rocket engine with the New Zealand genetic evaluation, but it's sitting in an old Datsun chassis with the Jade system. With Improve, we've got a whole new car, and we just need to get that engine moved over so that we can use it properly. We're going to review the progeny test program and ensure that the right data of the right type has been collected. Progeny tests are expensive, and we need to make sure that we're getting the best value out of them. And we're going to work hard on the extension end of genetics. So the caveat there is, from a beef and lamb point of view, the space for workshops is crowded, with farmers focusing on regulation. An example, the greenhouse gas calculations, winter forage cropping down in the South Island. This means that we are going to need to be innovative and clever with how we get our messages out to farmers, using influencers, online tools, and every cunning trick and plan we can. Pleasingly, with some funding with the Red Meat Profit Partnership, we built the Sheep Genetics 101 module, learning module last year. It was launched in November and has been used over 400 times since then. We have another module which is called, Sheep Mating Management, and that's been used over 1,000 times in the last year, and is beef and lamb's most used online learning module. Right, so now I'm just going to take an opportunity to introduce our team, and I'm going to get them to wave out or stand up if they're sitting down so that you can see them. So first off, we've got Dave Campbell sitting down the back over there. David's the brains and energy behind Improve. And our data systems, we've got Jackie Edwards, who's sitting down there as well. And Jackie's the first port of call for lots of people, many farmers and suppliers. Sarah Powdrill, who you saw already today, our sheep operations specialist. Michelle Tisdale, where's Michelle? Oh, here's Michelle. So Michelle's the glue that holds us together. She's been with us a few months. Michelle took over when Pam Schofield retired. Sharon McIntyre. Here's Sharon. So Sharon's our SIL expert, working on the technical and practical aspects of the evaluation, how SIL works. Becky Campbell, here's Becky, communications guru. Dr. Michael Lee, our senior scientist and the brains behind the world-leading New Zealand genetic evaluation. I'm introducing Mr. G. Kang, who's studying for his PhD. Sorry, G, here he is down here. Our genetics evaluation specialist working with Michael. Dr. Matthias Kinzerich, who's Maddie, down the back, running our beef program. Dr. Susie Keeling, who's going to be talking to us tomorrow. Dr. Cara Bosnahan. So Cara is our Senior Advisor Research Programs, and in particular is leading our work into parasite resistance and facial eczema. And Dr. Jason Archer. Who's Jason? So Jason's our newest addition. Jason has joined us from Abacus Bio and joins to take the role of genetics specialist livestock. Jason's role is to pay the pivot point between science and scientists, farmers and extension, breeders, that's the first beer of the day, breeders and data collection. This has been a bit of a gap for beef and lamb New Zealand genetics, as you know, and Jason's going to play a key role in helping us get onto the front foot for finding more solutions for you and the industry. Not here is Anna Boyd, our genetics specialist, beef. Now, of course, there's a much bigger group of people who help make sure we can deliver this for you, and we'll be hearing from some of those over the next few days. In particular, our group of sponsors, and who have been really important to help us bring this forum to you. Thank you to them and their support. Please support the people that support us. My last point, as breeders and as the genetics community, we can be proud of the rate of genetic gain that you've made. Despite the advantages of the dairy industry, our rate of gain is about 50% higher. That's percentages up the side of my graph there. This is a real asset, a value that we collectively are providing to the industry, and that represents a tangible solution to a number of the issues facing farmers at the moment. We and you can be rightly proud of this achievement. So the team's worked hard to create a program, hopefully, that will give you the opportunity to learn some things, catch up with breeders, and interact with other people in the sheep genetics industry. So let's get underway.